The sun hung low over the vast Wyoming plains, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers across the parched earth. Clara Mayfield stood on the rickety porch of her family's farmhouse, her hands clasped tightly in front of her faded calico dress. At 24, she felt ancient, worn down by the relentless grind of frontier life. The wind whispered through the dry grass, carrying the faint scent of sagebrush and dust, a constant reminder of the unforgiving land that had shaped her. Her parents, Elijah and Martha Mayfield, had built this home from nothing, scratching out a living from soil that gave little and took much. But now, that home felt like a prison, and Clara was its most unwilling inmate. It had started innocently enough, as these things often do. Clara had married Ezra Harlan at 19, full of youthful dreams of a family, a homestead of their own, children laughing in the yard. Ezra was a sturdy man, with broad shoulders and a quick smile that had won her heart at a church social. They had tried for years, prayers whispered in the dark, herbal remedies from the traveling peddler, even a visit to the doctor in the nearest town, a bumpy 2-day ride away. But month after month, the disappointment mounted. No child quickened in her womb. Whispers turned to outright accusations. Barren, the women at the quilting bee murmured when they thought she couldn't hear. Poor Ezra, saddled with a wife who can't give him heirs. Ezra's patience frayed like an old rope. He began staying out later, his excuses thin as the threadbare curtains in their bedroom. One night, after a particularly bitter argument, he packed his things and left for good, riding off toward Bitter Creek with a woman from the saloon, someone who promised fertility and fire. Clara was left alone in the empty cabin they had shared, her heart shattered into pieces too small to mend. She returned to her parents' farm, tail between her legs, expecting sympathy. What she got was resentment. Elijah Mayfield was a hard man, forged in the fires of pioneer hardship. His face was a map of wrinkles, each one etched by drought, flood, or failed crop. Martha, his wife, was no softer, her once bright eyes dulled by endless chores and the loss of 3 children to fever in their infancy. They had pinned their hopes on Clara, their only surviving daughter, to secure the family's future through marriage and grandchildren. But now, with her condition revealed, she was a liability. "We can't feed another mouth forever," Elijah grumbled over supper one evening, his fork scraping against the tin plate. "Times are tough. The bank's breathin' down our necks." Clara sat in silence, pushing her beans around her plate. She knew what was coming. Rumors had reached even their isolated farm of families in dire straits selling off daughters to merchants or settlers in need of labor. It was a desperate practice, frowned upon by the church but tolerated in the shadows of necessity. She had hoped. Pra.